Herman and Paul Honor.
Hey, happy Sunday night and welcome to Road Less Traveled episode 40. Bryan and I are here and we're super excited to have three of the members from Fear Not with us. We've got Gary Hanson, we've got Chris Sorensen, and we've got Larry Worley. And we're going to talk all about Fear Not and what's going on with those guys. They've just dropped this. Hopefully we'll talk about this for a little bit. And if you haven't gotten it yet, make sure you do, and and these guys will let you know where you can find it and get your copy for yourself. Welcome, thank you guys for being here. Bryan, welcome.
Good to be here.
Hello, gentlemen.
It's great to be here.
happy as a pig in slop.
Yes. So I was blessed to be able to see you guys at Immortal in 23. Missed 24 completely. And I think we just lost Chris, and planning on being out there in August this year and hopefully get and meet everybody in person and say hey. So exciting things happening. So who wants to start off tonight? Bryan, you got anything you want to say before we get rolling?
Nope.
Okay,
cool. Let's roll.
So who wants to start off and tell us about the new EP you guys just released?
Gary.
On the spot, man.
Who wants to volunteer? Gary.
Gary, yeah, that's how it always rolls. Who wants to pay? Gary. Who wants to do it? Oh, Gary. So I can just say that I said it before, I'll say it again. I think it's some of our best work. Our producer is amazing. The way we write is we're in separate places, and so we do our parts individually and we send them to the producer and put them together that way. So I really didn't get to hear final products until almost the whole thing was done, and just the way it came out, I mean, it's awesome. Every single song gives me chills. I think that the way that Eddie writes the lyrics and the place where we're all coming from is he calls it a dark place, but I think it's an enlightened place where God is using us to help people through trials of life, and our songs are inspiring in that way, and they're heavy and brutal, and it's great. I love it. I mean, I love all of our stuff, but this is some of my favorite. And I can't wait to actually finish the next 5 songs and have a full album for everybody. So that's kind of how it started. Chris and Larry, I'll tell you about them because they don't have to tell it. If they tell it, it gets real long and boring. But no, okay, besides all of us in separate places, when Larry and Chris do their parts, they're always together, and it's an anointing. I think they're just, these parts come out of the sky, and it's like unbelievable. Chris will go, wait, hold on, I got an idea, and it just layers upon layers of just brilliance. It's the orchestration. Well, you've heard the record. I mean, you can hear the little nuance, the way Chris plays, and the difference in the way Larry plays, and how it just comes together. It's amazing. So that's my take on the new record. I think the band's firing on all cylinders. We rehearsed. Was it last weekend, guys? Yeah, we rehearsed last weekend in Oklahoma, and we just had an amazing time, fellowship and having fun. I mean, we were just having a blast, and the songs just came together like butter. So we're excited to get out and play for people, and we're excited for people to hear the new stuff and the old stuff.
You're going to be at Immortal Fest, right?
We're going to be at the July one.
Okay.
The first one.
I thought y'all were going to be there in August. Okay. So
Larry might be there.
Okay.
But I might be there, but we're playing in July. We're playing the Saturday night with Honor and Glory and Saint and who else is on that night? White Cross.
Fallen.
and Deny the Fallen. Yeah.
Man, I wish I could go, but I can't.
Yeah, great lineup. Yeah, I had to pick which week I was going to go to this year, and this month is so busy for me. So, it's definitely plan on making it out. So I'm gonna go back in time a little bit. Chris seems like he's having some technical difficulties. We've lost his video. Chris, can you hear us? Are you able to talk? Yeah, I think we've lost him completely.
He gone.
I can see he's trying to get back in, so hopefully he'll get back in. So back in time, Love Life, and correct me if I get any of this wrong, but I kind of want to do a little history here. So Love Life, fantastic band, and if I'm not mistaken, was Gary. Hey, Chris is back. Yay! Gary and Larry, you guys were original founding members of Love Life, correct?
Correct.
Yeah,
Okay.
and Rod.
And Rod,
the bass player. He's still. The three of us are lifers.
Okay, awesome.
So
And then when you came in, Chris, I guess there was this name change to Fear Not.
Yes.
That's what happened. Okay. So and then there was a hiatus.
Yeah, so
go ahead.
Larry, go ahead and tell them the story there about the NAMM show.
Yeah,
There?
so the transition from Love Life to Fear Not, just so I'm clear the record, everything that Gary said in the opening, all of it was inaccurate.
Oh!
Wow.
Ding ding.
See?
Just
Gloves are off, bro.
Fun.
So we had a good few years with Love Life, I think, and even prior to Love Life, I don't know how many name changes we went through, just trying to figure out and just find out who we are, and and going through names and something that really fits and describes who you are and what you do and all that stuff. But we finally landed on Love Life, and we had, of course, we were able to come out with that record on Blonde Vinyl, and then the guitar player decided that it was just time for him to leave. He wanted to do some other things, and the job he had at the time really hindered him from doing a lot that we wanted to do, so he decided to step out, and when that happened, I knew right away who I wanted to be our guitar player, and we always ran into him at the NAMM show in Anaheim. Every year we'd run into him, and so I got with Gary, and I'm like, Gary, we got to go to NAMM this year and see if we can find this guy, and
we were armed with demos.
Yeah, we were prepared. We're like, and so we went that I don't know how many hours
Larry?
we walked around, and we're like, oh man, we're gonna miss our opportunity. We're headed out. We're leaving. We're headed for the doors. And as soon as we get to the exit, well, he's walking in.
Hello.
So we ran into him, and we got to
Pretty
talking.
good.
I mean, I rushed him. I just, just about tackled him, really. And he's like, "What? Who is this little guy?" But so we talked, and I asked him if he had a project he was doing, and at the time he wasn't. So,
Chris can't hear.
Uh-oh.
We can hear
Now
you, Chris.
You
Now
can
I
hear?
can.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
So, anyways, we gave him the CD to listen to, and then I had a cassette of some of the newer stuff that I was writing and that we were doing, and
Wow. Well,
and he did not.
Larry.
Go ahead, Larry.
What's wrong?
Chris can't hear, and he's talking.
I'm not saying anything. I'm just sitting here.
Well, I can hear you there.
Oh boy.
Am I too loud now?
Okay.
No, everybody's good volume wise.
Oh, Chris, go back to sleep. So
We're here live with the breakup of Fear Not. Just kidding.
Exactly.
but
Just
anyways,
Communication, man. That's what.
he's technically challenged, so we're trying to get him,
No lie.
into the
No. 21st century. Yes.
yeah.
I still. Yep. That's me.
But now I lost my place. But we found him. We found him, and he heard the demo and he liked it, so we went on from there.
Yep.
We actually and actually while we were rehearsing and getting ready, and again we were like, well, we don't want to keep Love Life, we went a completely different direction.
Yeah.
And
A lot heavier.
a time where Michael Cutting from Holy Soldier came in and was playing second guitar, and I put the guitar down and I was just lead singer. And he had a name called Fear No Evil at the time. So we went under that name for 6 months or so?
Yeah. Yes.
About that. And then Michael decided that he was going to go back and join Holy Soldier. And so we're like, well, we don't want to keep the name because Michael brought that name in. So Chris was like, let's shorten it. Let's call it Fear Not.
Oh, that's cool.
That's how that came about.
And I was reading that there was a passage of scripture that came into play too with that name.
Oh man.
So many.
365 times it's in the Bible.
Yep.
One for every day.
Yep. Truth. Yep.
So we absolutely love it,
Yeah.
So fantastic. We got some comments in the comment section. Christy says hello.
Oh, hi, Christy.
Steve McGowan from Weapons of God is with us tonight.
Hey, Steve.
That's our
And
boy right there, man.
apparently
Great
he's a little excited because he's jumping around the room.
Don't hurt yourself.
I was
Great
jumping
guy.
around the room when you all agreed to come on. So yeah, I get it.
We're honored.
Yeah,
We're
this
honored.
is great. So there was this great hiatus between, that first album and then was it a rebirth or was it a regathering? You brought in new members or a new singer. Talk
I'd
about
say
that, how that happened.
Hey, Lair, can I be candid with these guys, with everybody, with the world?
Yeah, go for it.
So we did the first record, which we loved and everything, but at the time, and it's still going on a little bit. We just really didn't. It was the, just Nirvana just came out, and we were pretty hair metal. We were pretty Guns N' Rosey hair metal type band, and it just really it wasn't working for us as far as touring, and a record label decided to move to Nashville, and we kind of had you guys want to come and be in Nashville, and Chris had gotten married, and he had moved to Nashville. So, and back then it wasn't like it is now, where you had so much internet, and we didn't have the internet. So literally, we were in Southern California playing Hollywood 3 nights a week. Touring out as much as we could from California. We did some fly dates later on in the during that album period, but it was really disheartening and disillusioning to us because we didn't know if we were making an effect. We had no idea. You get fan letters once in a while and stuff, and you really don't know how to gauge it. And so then it just really wasn't working at that time. We didn't know, and we had. We wanted to tour. We wanted to go out on the road and not work and not have to have 9 to 5s. And it wasn't working. I got married. Larry was having his second child. He ended up moving to Oklahoma because his family was out there. And so it kind of happened like that. And we really there was never an argument. There was never ill feelings toward. I mean, we loved each other, but we just, you know how you grow apart, and that's what kind of happened. And so basically we had, and I'll let you guys chime in too, but Larry in Oklahoma, there were some serious Fear Not fans in Oklahoma, and they found out Larry lived there and reached out to him. And Larry, being Larry, and that's how we are. Once we do this interview, we call it getting jumped in, you know, and you can't get out of the Fear Not camp after you're in. So,
Guys messed up.
so these guys, they just, you know, if you ever met Larry's wife and Larry, when you go to their house, you're family, you know. And so these guys, Larry invited them to the house, and they started playing and jamming, and they're like, we have to get Fear Not together. You have to do it. And Larry and I had started talking a little bit at that point, just talking as friends. And so we all ended up, you know, talking, and these guys actually brought us out to Oklahoma, put us up in their big giant gymnasium youth room, had all the gear set up for us, and we just went in there and jammed. And it was I mean, like Chris will say it. Chris, tell them about the car ride to there.
Well, I mean, it's just like after what, 30 years?
25 at that time, I think.
25, right? Okay.
Yeah,
but it's one of those things where a lot's changed during that time, and you're just like, a lot of people have, you know, it's just crazy because, you know, think about it, like the different directions that everybody goes in that span of time. And it was like within the, you know, I'm wondering as I'm flying in, getting off the plane, you know, it's just like, man, what do we still have in common? We talked a little bit on the phone. But man, within the first 15 minutes of this ride, nothing. I mean, nothing had changed. It's just like, it was like I'd seen these guys like before. It was hilarious, man. I mean, same jokes, same stuff. We are just like absolutely busting up, having the best time going down to Oklahoma City to practice. It was, man, it was, you know, honestly, that's one of those things where, you know, it's kind of God inspired when you have like it's almost like a family. You know, once you get back together, man, it is just like, it's perfect. Because there's times where I've met people that, you know, honestly, you haven't talked to in, you know, even 10 years, and you're just like, I got nothing in common.
Yeah.
Man, absolutely.
I think we were probably planning on a comeback before we even picked up our instruments, just on the ride to Oklahoma City, because it was just so cool.
Yeah, it's just like, man, it's so much fun.
I got a few friends like that. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
We don't see each other for 5 years, and then we get together for dinner. It's like,
Yeah.
That's just like, that is such a wonderful thing.
It is.
Yeah.
And then Larry, you could tell the rest of the story about singing and what happened at rehearsal.
Yeah. So, you know, within that hiatus, really the only kind of singing that I was doing was I led worship at my church. So I had, and the only gear I had was an acoustic guitar, and I had gotten rid of everything. And so I hadn't sung like that in years, you know. And before we got together, I was trying to even rehearse with that stuff, and I'm like, what happened? You know, I mean, I just couldn't do it. You know, I mean, to the point that I was choking. You know, if I was trying to sing, my throat would completely close up and almost, you know, choke. And
he became human.
Yeah. But, you know, so, you know, I was telling these guys, man, I don't know what to do, because you know, there's no way I could sing that old stuff, you know. And at least at that time, you know, I figured, well, maybe I could, you know, get some lessons going, or take some online courses and build my strength back up, you know. But it just didn't seem like it was happening. And so I just said, what if you guys thought about bringing in a singer? You know, it's still the original guys, and then we'll just add a fifth person. And I had somebody in mind that I had met a couple years prior who was in another band. And I approached him and I'm like, hey, and we hadn't talked for a few years, you know, and after we had met, and I called him up and just asked him, hey, Eddie, you know, are you doing anything these days? And again, he's like, no, nothing. I go, would you consider maybe fronting Fear Not, you know, here and doing some stuff? And he's like, absolutely, you know. So he come over to my studio here, and I had a song that I had done years ago, and ended up putting it out on another album with Liberty and Justice, a band called Liberty and Justice at the time. And they liked this song that I had, and they're like, can we put it out on a record? And I'm like, sure. So we did that, and I had him sing it. I'm like, here, I'm going to put this in, sing it, and I'm going to send it to the guys and see what they think. And so after that, I sent it. And they're like, heck yeah, let's give this a shot. And so we found out that he had a producer here in Oklahoma who he was using. So I got to meet him, and we hit it off really well. And we go in, and I start laying tracks down for the Wounded Heart CD. And then I get all my tracks done. We get it all arranged and everything. And then we get Rod and Chris and Gary out there, and they're cutting Gary's cutting his drums. And we just had my guitar tracks, and Gary's in there playing Don't Want None on the drums. And this is the first time Eddie comes walking in, and I'm introducing, they hadn't even met yet. I'm introducing Eddie to everybody, and Gary's in there just kind of waving, you know, behind the glass, you know, and I'm like, hey, it's Eddie. Hey. And so when Gary starts again tracking, I could see Eddie just sitting there on his phone, just typing.
Yep.
And he gets done, and you know, of course, Gary does a phenomenal job. He's such a great drummer. But Eddie's like, stop, set up a mic. So he had this whole idea going through his brain at that time, and he went in there and cut like the chorus for Don't Want None and laid it down right there. And that's kind of how we all got introduced to each other in that sense. And that's one of my favorite songs to this day.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Yeah. So that brings us to, was there an EP before this?
Yeah. For the Wounded Heart.
Okay. So I missed that one, but I jumped into this, and this would be the second album that Eddie was on, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
The EP would be the first. And this fantastic album, and a marked difference in vocal style between you and Eddie, for sure.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, the music is there, and it was really good, fantastic dynamic. And then there was like a couple of songs on there with almost like country music, like God's Country. And so what's the genesis of that, going from like a metal band, hair band, to like doing country songs?
You know, I'm gonna touch a little bit on this, and then I'll let Chris go. You know, when we got back together, Chris was playing, you know, with a bunch of people out in Tennessee, in Nashville, and then during that time he had an accident, and where he almost lost his fingers.
Ooh.
And so he adapted by playing the slide guitar and became an amazing slide player. So I had found this out, and I'm like, we need to bring some of that in to the style, and Chris was all about it because it goes all the way back to our roots, where we all came from, you know,
Yeah.
back in the 70s and 80s, that we all loved that kind of southern swampy kind of thing, And so one of Chris's sayings when we started recording Fields of Sorrow was, he's like, let's go in with like no preconceived direction. No, let's just no law, no rules. Let's just see what happens, and however it comes out, it comes out. And so, yeah. But Chris, you want to embellish on that as far as bringing in all that southern twang?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in Colorado, and my mom and my stepdad were listening to like Buck Owens, Waylon Jennings, and all this stuff. And I always tell people, then I started discovering like Black Sabbath, Leonard Skinner, and a bunch of different stuff from the '70s, and that had a big impact on me. And then all of a sudden, fast forward, man, going out to Hollywood and like being involved with all that, and then just listening to just all this amazing, man, I've always loved high energy. But once I went out to Tennessee, like Larry was saying, man, my ring finger on my left hand, I had a really bad accident, and they wanted to amputate it, and it just kind of shut down guitar playing for me for a while. So I adapted by learning how to play slide guitar, which I'd always loved. If you were looking through my CD collection, you'd think I was schizophrenic because I got everything from like bluegrass to Mississippi Delta, just hardcore metal, and I just feel like, there's a place and a time for everything. So, but because of that accident, I started doing a lot of traveling with different country artists and stuff like that. But the ones I was really hooking up with it was more rock and roll than anything. And if you listen to a lot of the stuff now, it's just like, man, it's rock with like kind of a country edge to it, or even heavier now. But I'm still like really super into heavy. So we just like kind of experimented, and that's kind of where everything is, came from. So, and again, if you ask me, you got 5 guys that have just been in different directions for 25 years. You're gonna end up with like some different influences.
Yep.
So it's really been exciting to be able to embrace like everybody's ideas.
Yeah.
I think one thing too to add to that is that, I mean, if you listen to Eddie, he was in Even the Dogs, which was he's a growler. I mean, he's all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then you listen to God's Country and you hear, like, even on the new record, Blue and Black, you hear the soul and the just how warm and just like a warm tone in his voice. And it's just a really good way to feature our new singer, like, hey, here's this guy who can growl and he can sing, and it's like not many people can do what Eddie does. And so we're, again, blessed to have him and his talent in the band. So that was another, reason we put that on there, is because it just sounded so good.
Hey, Paul, you want to hit the comments real quick?
Yeah, we could do that. So Rochelle's with us tonight. Hey, Rochelle. She said, hey, everyone. Can't wait to see you.
Love you.
And
see you soon.
Steve says he's loving the new EP. Great job. It rocks. I have to fully agree 100%.
Thank you.
Sarah's with us. Hey, Sarah, it's been a while since we got to have you on. Hi, everyone. Popping in late. Happy to see you all. Great to see you, too.
Well, thank you.
And Chris, is your sister married to John Cardaby?
John Corabi.
Corabi. I'm sorry, I couldn't read that.
That's funny.
Is my sister? No, that is a difference. That is a fun, true story. Same Sorensen. Her name's Debbie Sorensen. My sister's name is Jen Sorensen. felt the same way because I used to live in East Nashville, and when John moved to Tennessee and actually ended up hooking up with Debbie, we're just looking at each other, just going, well, we could be related, but apparently Sorensen over in like the Nordic region is like the same as Smith, because I've run into a bunch of Sorensens up in Michigan and Wisconsin and stuff, so it's kind of funny. But yeah, I actually love John and Debbie, man. They're phenomenal people. Yep.
John, Paul, you know who John Karabi is, right?
Yes.
What's that?
Yes. I couldn't read it's so little on my screen. I was having a hard time reading what it said.
I figured you did.
He sang with the Scream, and also he did an album with Motley Crue.
Yeah, I remember when he did that.
Hey, Joyce Carlson's on. I want to say hi to her.
Hi, Joyce. And she wanted to know if we were live, and Rochelle answered her and said yes.
Can't wait to hug your neck in Ohio soon.
Yep. Say hey to Les.
So Immortal Fest was Immortal. So the dynamic was you guys coming back together and playing live, contribute more to Immortal Fest than Immortal Fest contributed to you guys, or what was the dynamic there?
Well, we did a couple shows prior to that.
Yeah.
And we were in contact with Michael Fian from White Cross, and I was just talking to him one day, and next thing I know, I'm getting an email from Steve. I guess he said, "Hey, you got to get these guys." And so Steve from Immortal reached out to us, and so it was. I mean, I don't know if it was a catalyst for us. I think we're going to do it anyway, but it sure has been an inspiration and just a support system and a family that's just. I mean, you've been to Immortal. It's not. Yeah. It's like nothing else that I've ever been to. So the love and the fellowship and it's like going to church for 3 days. It's just just the fellowship and I mean, everybody's just so kind and nobody's a rock star out there. Everybody's just hanging out, and it's awesome.
Yep.
And I saw at the end they get everybody on stage and sing that one song. I can't remember what song it is.
Holy, holy, holy.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. Right. I can't wait till I can go.
Yeah. I'll tell you what. You can really hear you can feel the Holy Spirit just absolutely fall during that song. It is.
Hey, Paul, I want to ask something about what they've got hanging on their walls.
Yeah.
So start with you, Chris. All those guitars, what's your favorite one, and which one do you use for recording, or do you mix it up and use different ones on different songs? What's the scoop?
So, it just depends, man. I just really feel like the guitar kind of dictates what the song, you'll hear the song and just like, I think I got something I want to use. But yeah, I've been collecting guitars for a long time, and each one of them are different. I've got to deal with my daughter and my wife. It's just like, if you name a guitar, you can't sell it. So I'll buy something, she'll come in. Yeah, that one's called Dallas or whatever, and it's just funny. But I mean, it's one of those things where like each guitar, if you ask me, I worked for Gibson, the custom shop for a long time. So I've got a couple of really good custom shop pieces that I usually use for recording. But my touring guitars are a little bit different because, man, with TSA and everything nowadays, you just got to be kind of careful what you're taking. So, but
that purple one behind you is one that you use a lot.
Yeah. So we ended up getting an endorsement with this wonderful company called Vintage Brand Guitars, and man, they for a working musician, that's a phenomenal company because the guitars play very well. You get them set up, you can, switch the electronics out. You might not like some of the electronics and stuff that's in there, but man, it is a good base point to make something for a touring beast. And if something did happen with TSA or, the neck got broken, you're not out, $7,000. You're out $600-700, which is a lot easier to deal with. I'd still be bummed because I'd get attached to,
of course,
Billy.
Yeah,
would, but man, they're wonderful guitars, and we're grateful to be endorsed by them.
Which one's your favorite though? Like your go-to, like if you're gonna practice and you're like, I've got to use Betsy or whatever.
So I've got I have got a 59 Les Paul that
Okay.
I got to build, reissue, not the real thing, a reissue that I got to build at Gibson, and that was one of my goals when I went to go work for the custom shop, that I would walk away one of those days with a real 59 reissue, and I've got that. I was able to walk that thing through the shop, and I even had, since I'd worked there for a while, I had friends like there was a guy named JT Ribloff that used to do all the he worked on Tony Iommi's guitars, all this stuff. He was just a phenomenal luthier, and he ended up giving me some real capacitors from a real 59 for this guitar, and I was able to basically walk it through the whole shop, get the people I wanted to work on it, and it means a lot to me because, again, man, I know everybody that was involved with it, and it's a beautiful guitar. And that's when, like, I'll usually go in and track in the studios with. Larry's played it. He seems to like it a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. But that, or I've got a Strat that it's a 72 Strat over here that is named Jake. And Jake is like, man, I can't even tell you how many honky tonks and just gigs over the years, man, that I've played with Jake. And that's got a really cool story to it.
I might start naming mine now just because I met you today.
You just
Again, man.
This is when we just used this Eddie Van Halen 5150 series guitar on our new CD Full Armor.
Nice.
And we finally got the sound I want. I love this kill switch.
Yeah.
Yep.
You can hit this whammy bar and then go did.
Yeah. Dude, the stutter switch thing, I've got a friend of mine in Austin that is like
That's
phenomenal.
nice.
Mark,
I just love it.
yeah, the stutter switch thing is great. Dude, That is a good guitar, my friend.
Yeah.
I had to spend a little bit of money on it, but that became my main guitar. I have a Jackson Dinky. Yeah, Dinky. And that one plays nice, but it needs better pickups or something. I don't know. Because if you listen to our Only Human album, my guitar sounds like, I always say it sounds a little bit like a bumblebee. I don't really like the sound.
Yeah.
And then I got a Boss pedal that has like 40 different sounds, and we finally found the sound we want. So I took a picture of the guitar pedal to make sure if my cat bumps it or something.
Yeah.
Beautiful. No, that is brilliant, man. Seriously, either wax pencil or a picture. Same way. I mean, like we're talking like a 16th either way.
And the sound changes.
I agree.
Yep.
Yes.
Good. I'm not the only one.
No, I test it. It's bad, but yeah.
I like the fact that your EVH guitar has the Kramer style stock on it.
Yeah, that is too cool.
It kind of looks like a hockey stick, doesn't it?
Yeah,
it does. But bro, that's an homage back to the 80s. Because
this guitar talk.
Okay, do we want to give the drummer a chance?
Sure, I guess.
So I play a Les Paul.
He starts talking about guitars.
I have my Taylor and my bass, and there's my Taylor over here on the side. But no, we talked about my drums. I'm currently playing GMS drums and love them. I've got just a really pretty kit. It might be a little bit too pretty for metal, but it's cool. I just actually added a tom to my setup, and I'm kind of having fun with that. But if you see that Gibson on this side, that's a gift from a good friend of mine named Larry Worley.
Oh yeah.
So yeah,
Larry.
And then that's cigar. That's actually a gas can guitar from South Africa. My daughter bought that for me. Oh. And then I got a few more guitars. I had like a lot of guitars at one point, but I stopped collecting them and sold a bunch of them because I didn't name them so I could sell them. I'm really fickle. I go through drums and guitars and like every year. So
give your cymbals a plug, brother.
Oh yeah, I told him about it. Yeah, red cymbals. I ran across. I had to. I mean, it's funny because my very first kit after Fear Not, this friend of mine who actually produced the drums on the first EP and the first record, Gooch Ibarra. He called. He was working at Guitar Center one time and he called me. Said, "Hey, I got this drum set and I can sell it to you for a stupid amount of money. And in fact, I can sell it to you for a price that'll get me fired." And I go, "Why don't you do that?" He goes, "No," he goes, "I'm going on tour tomorrow. So I'm quitting anyway." So I got this premiere kit. And so the same guy, Gooch, called me up one day and he said, "Hey, I just played at this church and they have these amazing cymbals from Australia called red cymbals. You got to check them out." And so I started looking them up and looking into them. And then I found that like at that same church, a week later, they were having a what they call a woodshed. And they put like 5 drum kits on. They put all these cymbals on the drum kits, and like 5 guys get on and start playing together. And,
wow.
And then they have they have a pro guy on there that comes in and does a little clinic, and it was awesome. And I fell in love with them. They just sounded so good. And then they gave me an endorsement. So,
That's
and then
awesome.
they started, building sticks, and they gave me an endorsement for that. So I actually have some autographed Gary Hanson sticks. So yeah, they're a great company, great guys, Christian guys. I can't say enough of good stuff about Reds. The only thing I'd say negative about them is that they're in Australia, so they have to, they have to send you have to pay shipping on the long, that long ship. But great cymbals, love them.
Gary, I loved your segue to get us guitar guys to stop talking. that made me crack up.
What? Very subtle.
Yeah,
That's great.
I don't like getting beat up. I like to get my point across.
Chris,
No, I love
we can
guitars
just
too.
take him to a dark alley sometime. You and we'll get him.
No, no. You go ahead.
I need backup.
It wouldn't be me. I'm not your guy. But I actually love guitars. I can sit and listen to these guys talk for hours. I learn.
Right.
I know more about guitars because these two guys than I hang out with guitar players more than anything because they talk a lot.
Well, just for the record, I did play drums on one of our songs. It's about my wife when she died. So it's a song called "I See You." And my drummer, John, he said, "You should do the drums on this." I'm like, "Really?" So I did do one.
Wow. Cool.
Man, brother.
I'm kind of.
They don't let me touch a guitar in a Fear Not setting. They go, "Oh, can you grab a cajon?" I'm like, "Oh, I want to play guitar." Nope.
No, don't even look at it.
No, yeah. No.
Turn it up to 11. Can I look at it? No. Don't even touch it. Don't even look at it. It's a Spinal Tap.
Yeah.
Larry.
Iconic movie.
Yeah. All right, so you guys did a cover on this album, and then you had a cover on the EP.
Sure.
And great covers, love them. Millions of songs to pick. How did you land on those 2 songs?
I probably had a lot to do with God's Country because, again, man, I'm in Nashville, and just I play with different artists and stuff also on the side. Fear Not's my main gig, but I'll do things with different people. And that song had come out, and I was listening to lyrics, and it just connected. It just really did. So I brought that forward, and Eddie and Larry and Gary had heard it and stuff, and I'm just like, man, what if we do like a super heavy version of this? And they're just like, yeah, let's give it a shot. So that's how that came about. And then
we've been talking about
Larry
Blue on
brought,
Black for
yep.
We've been talking about Blue on Black for even before that, before we did God's Country.
Yeah, dude, it's
one of the
very, very well.
Yeah, one of the ones that we were considering, then we ended up going with God's Country just because it seemed like it was, an appropriate fit at the time, and how the ideas started to come together with it so quick. It was kind of natural.
Yeah.
And then with this one, since Blue on Black was, always in the back of our minds, just one day I was in the studio and I'm just like, okay, we're going to stop talking about this one and we're just going to do it. So I laid the scratch track down, went through it, and then I laid my electric part down, and I sent it off to our producer, and he was like, yeah, this is sounding good. And so he kind of just added, threw back a little scratch track with some drums and stuff on it, just to kind of give us something to hear back, and we're like, yes, that's where we want to go with it. And I love, like, Kenny Wayne Shepherd, the original composer, if you will, I guess, of the song, and a couple of his co-writers. I love the way he explained it when he was talking about where the song came from, and basically that there's so many. It's basically like a personal interpretation. So whatever the listener hears and gets from it, because it's such a wide open, I guess, interpretation of something, and for me, it's like everything that everybody is just going through, it was just a heavy lyrical song. And if you really get into the meaning of it, Blue on Black, it's like with a black shirt and you try to throw something on it, it's like you can't see it. It's not going to penetrate through the black. All you're going to see is the black. All you're going to see is the negative, and with somebody trying to sugarcoat something that is so awful, you can't do it, and it resonated with me. It resonated with me through, like, seeing people's relationships of people who are going through so much and like verbal abuse, and then trying to say, oh, I'm sorry. Well, sorry just doesn't cut it anymore. You've done all this damage and everything, and just that little bit of, sugarcoat, if you will, just it was just heavy to me. And that was my interpretation of it. When I heard it back, I'm just like going, wow, listening to all this stuff, there's so much more into the lyrical content that you could take those what do you call it, Gary? What do you call it? Come on, I'm searching for the
nuances.
Come on.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just a drummer.
Wow.
Well, match on a fire. A match doesn't really do much when you got a fire.
Yeah, they're opposites.
Yeah, it's just.
Well, they're prerequisites to each other.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that was it for Blue on Black. Plus, it fits our style. I think I just love that Southern rock kind of deal.
So who's living where now?
Oklahoma.
Tennessee.
You guys are both in Tennessee. You're both in Nashville.
Yeah.
No, kind of. I'm 30 miles. I'm 27 miles on the one side, and he's like 27 miles on the other side. So
Okay.
Yeah.
we're an hour apart, Chris and I.
I'm in Knoxville. So where are you guys at?
I'm in Gallatin.
Hey.
Gallatin.
Murfreesboro.
Okay. Murfreesboro. I was there last year for work. So yeah.
I'm up in Michigan.
I got family in Michigan.
Part?
What's that?
I have
What part
family in
of
Michigan.
what part of Michigan?
In 1990, I lived up in Holland. So now I'm in towards Fenville, about 23 minutes south of Holland, Michigan.
Okay. Great state.
Romulus, Michigan is where a lot of my family is, kind of around Detroit area.
Okay, that's way over on the other side. Yep.
Yeah.
Isn't Michigan like the fingers?
Yep.
Yeah, it's got a paw, and then you got your Upper Peninsula.
Yeah.
It's the mitten.
It drives people
It's the
crazy
mitt.
because I always have a map of Michigan. I live right here. And then I lived in Florida
Smart.
previous, so I lived here.
Dude,
That's great.
right?
Hey, Steve's got a question. He says, Chris, I'd love it if you can get together, if we can get together and you can give me some pointers on how to use a slide on the guitar. I just can't seem to get the act for it. So,
Man, it's a balancing act. It's got to do with the weight of the.
Uh-oh.
we
Chris.
just lost
He
Chris.
doesn't want to give his secrets away. See how he is?
It was.
I muted him because he was starting to give away our secrets.
I'll tell you. I'm just kidding. I've never used one.
That was great.
That was
Sarah's dad's an upper.
Youper.
Oper, yeah.
Uper.
Youper.
Okay. Uper. I was wondering how to pronounce that. That's why I kind of threw it up there and figured one of y'all would grab it. 'Cause I
It's the Upper Peninsula, but I've heard people say a Youper. So if I'm wrong, people can correct me.
All right. Chris is trying to get back in, but while he's trying to get in, talk about, and we don't have a lot of time left, but talk about you came to Christian music. So there, how did the Lord bring you together as a group? How did the Lord bring you together into Christian music? Because it's ministry. I mean, obviously it's entertainment, it's fun, it's a passion, but it's ministry at the same time. So can you talk about that a little bit?
I can tell you my story real quick. So I was in a band playing in Hollywood in the 80s. We were pretty good. We were good. We didn't fit the image. We were just doing our thing. And I got saved. I went to a passion play on Easter, and the Lord, just called me. And so I pretty much had to quit that band because they were partying, and it was as a young Christian, I don't ever recommend continuing to be in the same scene you're in, and I started going to church 2 or 3 times a week. I'd go Sunday night, Wednesday, Sunday night, and I happened to go to the church that Stryper went to.
That's cool.
In West Covina with Raul Reese, and it was not only them, but there was a whole section of these long hairs, and I was sitting with my Christian family that had brought me to the Lord, and on the other side of the church, and I'd walk over there and say hi to the guys and start talking to them, and I was talking to this one guy, and he's actually currently the drummer for Tears for Fears, but he's he was in Michael Sweet's
Can't hear anybody.
solo. So the long story is our original Love Life guitar player, he went to that church too, and so we started, and our original Love Life bass player too, which before we were actually Love Life. They all went to that church, and we one day I was talking to Jamie, and he said, "Oh, we got a gig tonight," and I'm like, "Cool, you need help?" He goes, "Yeah, that'd be great." I go, "Hey, I got a van. I can even come pick." So I went, picked him up, loaded the drums in the van, and set up the drums for him, and I started roadieing for that band. And lo and behold, Darren was the guitar roadie, and Mike, the bass player, was the bass roadie. So his cousin was the bass player, and Darren's best friend was the guitar player. And so we started talking. We started, "Hey, let's get together." And so the 3 of us started jamming, and then we put an ad in the recycler and got Larry, and that's when it happened. But so that's kind of how I did it. But I didn't play drums for a long time. I just kind of said, let's I'm going to take it easy. I didn't know how to play drums in church. I was just a pounder. So that's kind of how I came about it. And as a group, we came together. Surrender was a Christian band, so we were in that Christian music scene right off the bat. That's when Deliverance and Barren Cross and Holy Soldier, and that's when they were all in Hollywood. We were all in Hollywood literally every weekend, if not a weeknight and a weekend. There's one of the Christian bands was playing in Hollywood. So that's kind of how that started for me in the Christian music scene. I was going to church. I was fired up for God, and that's kind of how I got going. Cool. And Larry has a good story too, and so does Chris.
Yeah. Of course, I think all of us at a young age developed an interest in music, and we all started playing our instruments fairly young, and I was started playing in junior high and getting together with my cousin, and we would try to put bands together, but that was a little hard back then when you're that young, but then we got into high school and things got a little bit more serious. And of course, at the time we wanted to be rock stars, and we would rehearse in my garage. And every time we'd take a break, we'd go in and get a drink, out of the fridge or something. And my mom would always tell us when we were coming in, one day you guys are going to be playing for Jesus. And I would just laugh. Yeah, sure, Mom. Okay. Because I'm like, in my mind, I'm thinking, well, you can't be a rock star and play for God. Those two just don't mix. It just doesn't happen. So it's not going to happen. And I'm in sophomore in high school, or no, a junior, I think. And I had run into a friend of mine who we played Little League together. And I'm like, Mike, man, how's it going? And I'd say, man, he had hair, super long hair and stuff. And so I'm like, cool. How you doing? And then lo and behold, we start talking, and he's like, so you go to church? And I'm like, wait, what? Did that just come out of your mouth? And he's like, yeah. And he whips out a Bible. He's like, yeah, man, got my Bible here. And he's like, why don't you come to church with me? And I'm like, I appreciate it, but no, I'm good. And we kept running into each other in the hallways. And he's like, so you ready to go to church yet? You're like, man, no. And I'll never forget this. One day I'm walking home, and he's like behind the gym area, where everybody would go to fight, that's we're gonna be behind the gym. Well, he met me there, and I'm kid you not, he put me up against the wall. And he was a big dude. I mean, big when I mean he, that guy could bench, 240 or something back, in high school. And he put me up against the wall, and he goes, I'm going to tell you about Jesus. You're going to listen. And I'm like, you got my attention. So, of course he was goofing around, but no, man, he just knew that there was something there, and that I needed he knew I needed Jesus,
God was using that dude to bring you.
Yeah. He wasn't about to let me get by. And so I started opening up to him, and I'm like, well, I really want to, I love playing guitar, and I love singing and writing songs, and he goes, well, I'll tell you what, why don't you come to church with me, and I'll want to introduce you to something. And so we go to Calvary Chapel, Costa Mesa, and this was like 78, I think, or 79, one of those years. And we go, and here, lo and behold, here comes this band out on stage, and it's Resurrection Band.
There you go.
Nice.
Yeah. And that was the first band I saw, and that's where I accepted the Lord that night and changed my life. And then again, and then it just kind of evolves, and then I end up, years later meeting Gary, and we just start playing music together, and then meet Chris, here we are, 30 years later,
Yep.
and we had that hiatus, and God said, I'm not done with you guys yet. You had a lot to learn in that time.
Yep.
You guys had a lot to grow, and but here we are, and we're a lot. Well, I don't want to say we're a lot wiser, because we're probably just as dumb as we were back then. But I think we're in a place where we're a lot more submissive to what God wants and not just what we want. It's like, okay, God, your hand is all over this, and you've got the steering wheel. We're just coming along for the ride, and
Great.
and so here we are.
Yep.
We have reached the hour that I told you guys the show would be. We're cool to stay later if you are. Chris, I know it's your birthday, and I'm sure you probably have family you want to get to. Did you want to share your testimony real quick, or do you got to go? It's cool either way, man.
No, man, I will. So I grew up in a really dysfunctional, violent, alcoholic household, and kind of spun me out at a young age. And at one point in my life, I remember when I was younger, I just figured, man, there couldn't be a God, or I wouldn't be going through all the stuff I'm going through. Well, fast forward, I ended up, because of everything that I'd gone through, I ended up getting into drugs. And I think at 14 or I think I was 14, I ended up in a drug rehab center in Dallas, Texas.
Wow.
And two things had happened there. I'd always been interested in guitar, but at that center, there was a guitar player. I think he's about 19 or 20. Man, this guy was a ripping blues player. And I messed with guitar, but I never really learned guitar. And this guy took the time to teach me how to play.
Cool.
During that time, also, I had an incredible encounter with God. It's kind of a long story. I'm just going to paraphrase, because I don't want to, take a bunch of time and stuff, or whatever. Anyways, because of that, I was able to learn and look back on my life and see the points where God had met me that I just didn't realize.
Yep.
It was just like, man, I grew up in an Episcopal church, and during that, man, I'm not saying anything about the Episcopalian faith or anything like that, but it wasn't a one-on-one personal relationship with God that I encountered at this rehab. So fast forward, man, I mean, that just learning how to play guitar, that actually saved my life, because I was able to go back home, and instead of going out and being with my friends and doing the same old thing I was doing, I just concentrated on guitar playing, and just, man, that really helped keep me on the, straight and narrow.
Yeah.
Ended up straightening my life out. Ended up going to there is a music conservatory. Well, it's GIT. It's Guitar Institute of Technology out in Hollywood. I went there back in I think it was like 83, right when all the metal stuff was kicking out. Now that's really funny. Coming from Colorado, man, I was around basically, again, man, I'd heard, some rock, man, but I'd never been around anything like that. So that was a really interesting time. And I kind of got my butt handed to me. Ended up going back to Colorado, and I was just like, man, I'm never, I'm not going back out to California. Ended up getting in a band in Colorado. We had interest, Geffen Records, which was like kind of a big thing back then. We're interested in us, and the rest of the band I was in, the rest of these guys are like, we're going out to California. I'm like, oh man, all right. So I ended up going back out again, but this time God just definitely had some different, there was like a different design, And just to make a long story short, I ended up meeting one of the pastors, this guy Steve Valdez, who was one of the pastors for Sanctuary Church.
Okay.
I was coming out of a bar with these two girls, and I was a little on the inebriated side. And I remember this guy walking up to me. These girls like come running up, give this guy a hug. This is the pastor of my church. I'm looking at him. I'm like, man, this guy looks like Jake Lee from Ozzy or something. I'm like, I didn't know Jake was a pastor. But you know, we started talking, and I went from fairly inebriated to sober within 5 minutes. And I'm looking at this guy going, I don't know what is going on. I don't know who you are, but I'm coming to your church. And that's when I started going to Sanctuary. And man, it was incredible. It just man, that there was a point during that time where my life went under a lot of changes, but God proved who he was to me during that time. And man, to the point of just like, it's just there. I think when you're stubborn and you're a kid or you're just a bonehead or whatever, it takes a while for God to get through. And he did. And it was one of those things where I just distinctly remember one night going, man, if you get me out of what I'm in right now, I promise you I'll serve you the rest of my life. And he did. And man, that was all it was. That's basically the spiritual side for me. What absolutely got me. And then the music side was just like, I didn't realize that there was Christian rock. I really didn't. My cousin, when I was a kid, came over and I had really liked Black Sabbath when I was a kid, and my mom had bought me like this. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the album cover for an album called Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. And if you look at the album cover, you're just like, what the, So my cousin came over, took a look at that, and he's like, hey man, I want to take you to a concert. And I think he took me to go see it might have been Petra or something. And I love those guys now. But back then, I'm like, man, I liked it. It was okay. But man, you're expecting me to trade that kind of power. I'm like listening to that album, just going, there is just something there. So that's always stuck in the back of my head. And that's what's really so great about the Christian rock and Christian metal movement is, man, there is it's the definition is lyrics. You still have the power and everything else that's going on in just phenomenal bands.
Yeah.
I wish I would have had that back then.
So, guys, we really love playing, for the body of Christ. It's definitely uplifting and edifying, but where the rubber meets the road for Fear Not, we want to get into the meat and potatoes of it. We want to get into in fact, in November, we're going to be playing a couple of shows here uh, at the Shrine in Oklahoma, Tulsa, Oklahoma, and we're going to be opening up for the Texas Hippie Coalition. And we got a chance to open up for Udo last year. And that's the arena that we want to play in. We had a great time, Chris, didn't we? Talking to Adrian, no,
Andre.
Yep. And
Yep.
we're Facebook friends. I watch him all the time. He comes out with some incredible guitar music, but we've been able to build relationships, with them, and we had such a great time talking with them, and that's where we want to go. We want to get in that arena, and we want to get one-on-one in that sense.
And it's not about just to everyone's thinking this question. It's not about us becoming a secular band and becoming
No.
it's not about us changing at all who we are. It's just about us focusing on going to the dark places that's what we did in Hollywood.
Yeah.
We didn't play with, we very rarely played with Christian bands. We went in and we played with the raunchiest, and we did that every week. And that's where the ministry is for us. And that we kind of feel like, we fit in there because of, we're pretty strong and we stick together and we just love on people and they see a difference in that. It's not about preaching we're not throwing Bibles in the audience, but we're not shy about who we are, and we will never lose that. So.
Well, you have the opportunity also to the after show when you're at the table with your merch and stuff to talk to the people on a human level.
Yes.
And
they appreciate that.
Yep. And that's where the Holy Spirit will work big time.
Yep.
Make yourself available.
Yep.
I agree more. That's probably one of the stronger moments, man. I mean, it's great being on stage, but man, afterwards talking to people, that is when God shows up.
Big time.
And I'll close. How about this? If I close with this, we had a chance to play in Texas last Christmas, and one of the guys who actually helped us get back together, he had flown out there to see us play, and he's just such a prayer warrior, such an amazing guy, and he is just like fanatically, get over here, guys, come on. So we all were like, okay, what's going on? He said, this lady needs prayer. She needs healing. She had like liver cancer. She had like 3 things that basically death sentences. And we got to lay hands on her, and I literally felt the warmth and the spirit move at that moment. And we got word a few weeks later that she got a clean report from the doctor. And we're like, dude, we don't even have to play another show for the rest of our lives. Or do we? I mean, just that one thing is just enough to just keep you inspired to go out and do what you do. And that was if you ever asked me what the best concert was, that was it, because it wasn't about the show. The show was great, I must say. We played for about 10 people, but it was awesome.
But God uses all of these things, and even like you guys talk about your testimonies, the difficult times that we go through, we don't see it sometimes.
Yeah.
And now you look back and you're like, oh, I see it now. Yeah. God is the master of putting the puzzle together. We don't know what we're doing. That's why we gotta trust Him.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I love you guys. I have to actually step off.
All right.
I have to go back to work.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking your time to be with us.
Lord bless you.
God bless you.
Man, God bless you guys. Hope to see you down the road. Seriously.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely.
Chris, I'm going to sneak into your house and one of your guitars might be missing.
All right.
Come down, brother. I'd love to jam with you.
These guys are the real deal, man. You heard it here. You heard exactly that they're in it for the ministry. Check them out. Rocks Records. You can get their CDs. You can get
Look at that
the new EP. Please support them. Don't download. Don't copy. Don't burn. Buy.
Yeah, thanks,
go to their shows. Pay for the tickets. Don't ask to be on the guest list.
Right.
So, thank you so much, guys. Appreciate you.
Thanks for being on.
God bless you guys, man.
God bless you.
Guys.
Hope to see you. See ya.
And happy birthday.
Yep.